Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What is your
name?
name?
I am
What?
Stuti.
Yeah,
I'm Stuti.
I'm Manushka.
Stuti and Manishka?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Rina. So I am a teacher of younger students. They are around 10, and they studied the issue of the item of folk story.
Okay.
And I can imagine that you saw their films, their video that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's in Hebrew because that's what they can do, videos in Hebrew, which is our language.
Yes.
And of course, I couldn't translate it, but I wrote everything on the sway.
But
So
we were that was really surprising that 10-year students are making such amazing videos.
yeah,
Because we ourselves are 17 and we couldn't imagine doing such a great work.
okay, thank you. This is a real compliment. But you know, we really, a lot of time we give them the opportunity to do videos for themselves, and they are really doing it very well. Okay.
Yes, we saw the
They
videos,
have,
even though we couldn't understand it, but the emotion and the work and the hard work that was presented in the videos, that was exemplary.
yeah, thanks. Thanks for the kind words. Okay. So what do you want to tell me about your work?
Okay, so today we are here Skyping you to talk about our folk tales in India and the folk tales in Israel, and how there is a comparison between the two, how they are similar, and are they in contrast with each other.
Okay.
Yes.
So you want to start?
Yeah, let's just start.
Let us begin. Okay.
All right. So many stories talked about the social statuses or the practices that prevailed in India, and your stories did talk about those in Israel. So what we could kind of figure out was that there was a very high level of companionship shared in both the cultures.
Ask again, what was the what? The
There was
say again.
Yeah, there was a very high level of companionship shared between the characters of stories in both the cultures.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
example, the mother mouse, she helped the little mouse to win the competition. Similarly,
yeah.
we had a lot of stories wherein the friends or even parents at times helped their children succeed.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Because the folk story have messages that can teach us how to behave in our life, in
Yes,
actual our life. These are the messages, really. So it can be something like the small one can do maybe better than the bigger one,
exactly.
no matter if it's an animal or no matter if it's a children, sometimes the little children can do much more than the oldest one. You
Yes,
agree?
you're right. Yes, you're
Okay.
right.
And another message that my students worked on was that you have to think before you act.
Exactly.
Before. Yeah, you have the same message in your stories?
Yes. In one of our
Okay.
stories, we have this message.
Yeah, because this is very, very important because sometimes, we act spontaneously and impulsively, and we don't think about what we are going to achieve. And sometimes when the results come, it is too late.
Yeah,
Yes, you're right.
You agree? Okay. So
Yes.
you tell me now and for another message that you understood from the stories.
we also understood that being clever, British, and being an opportunist is really important for you to survive in this world. Earlier, people used to think that being naive is the best. If you're naive, you'll probably survive and you won't fail. So, but today, being an opportunist is the best one can do to survive.
Yes, that's
Also,
right.
the gullible people in the society tend to get submissive because of the manipulative people, and therefore, there's nothing wrong to be manipulative, nothing wrong to be clever, nothing wrong to be brave in the society because that is how you thrive in the world.
As long
Yes,
as you
the
are
world is changing. I must tell you, the world is changing, and you are facing a new world now. As
Exactly.
youngest students, you are facing a new world.
Someone has to take a stand, and someone has to say no to a thing that is happening in the society for a long period of time.
Yes, I agree. This is
Yes.
very nice. So, when I read your stories and I read it in front of my students, and of course, about the stories that they have learned in Hebrew, so we asked ourselves, how come that stories from another culture and in another place on the planet, India is very far from Israel, how
Yes.
come that we have the same messages? What do you think
Yes,
about that?
we were too surprised to see that the even though the countries are quite in opposite directions and they are in quite a contrast with each other in their culture and religion, but the message is same. Everyone is spreading the message to be good. Everyone is spreading the message to be honest and to be credible to their society.
So let us think how come it could happen. How could it happen that stories from around the world have the same messages? What do you think?
It
What do
is
you think?
probably because we share those common historical links and our footprints trace back to probably just one place in particular. So all of us, since all of us are mankind, so all of us definitely merged from just one place. So it's probably those roots that make us so similar and yet so different.
And
Yes, that's
also,
nice.
even though the physical appearances and the languages are different, but people in the entire world are just the same. Everyone
Yeah.
wants respect, everyone wants love, care. Everyone has the same message to spread. It's just the physical appearances that are in contrast with each other.
How now? You said very important things, both of you. I thought about the fact that these stories back in the history were told by speaking, not by writing. It was
Exactly.
Yeah.
so sometimes the stories spread out in the world by people who went from one country to another, like merchandise that were going from a place to place, and they heard the story in one city or in one country, and they came to another one, and then they just told it, and the people heard it, and this is the way the story got spread in other countries. So maybe they changed some details,
Mm,
but the core of the story remained the same. So
exactly.
maybe this is one of the reasons that we have such similar stories in different countries. And this is very nice.
Yes.
And as you said, I think Manishka,
Yes.
raise your hand. It's you. It's you,
Yeah, it's
Manishka.
me.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I'm
you
Manisha.
said you said that we are all mankind, and we want to behave nicely, and we want good manners. So these stories are really about having good manners between people. And if you are not like that, you should learn from these stories.
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
I
good.
completely agree with you.
Thank you. So, what else do you want to tell me?
Also, another story of yours which taught us to empathize, and the message was very clear that one should not treat someone in the manner that they cannot be treated themselves. So that is what we are taught in our school. That is what our parents teach us. So that was quite a message that was so similar. Even though there's nothing common in the story, but the message is common, and that is really amazing to see.
Yes, this is very nice. Yeah, you're right. Okay. You were saying?
Yeah, so I was saying that at a very young age, we are taught about not being hypocrites and letting our actions speak louder than our words. And when we come across such messages later on in our lives, we really feel good. I mean,
Yeah.
we sort of start taking pride in our values.
Yes, this is very important. Yes, I agree. Okay, so thank you very much for
Thank you
sharing,
so much.
and we will be in touch maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay?
sure.
Okay. So
We'll be
maybe
looking
I
forward
will
to your reply.
write. Maybe I will write to Ritu. Ritu is your teacher.
Yes.
I will contact her on the mail. I will tell her that I want to do the session again, and we will fix a date.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
Okay? Good. Thank you very
Namaste.
much. Thank
namaste. So this
What?
is that's an Indian gesture we usually do.
Say
Namaste.
again. Say again.
Namaste.
Ah, namaste. Okay.
Okay.
Namaste. Yeah, this
How do
word
you
I
call how do you call hello in Israel?
shalom.
Shalom. Okay,
Shalom.
shalom.
Shalom. Yeah,
And what
shalom.
goodbye?
Leitraot. But we say bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Bye bye is universal. So,
Okay.
bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Bye bye.
As a part of the English collaborative activity, I had an opportunity to learn a lot about the history and the cultures of both India as well as Israel. We, the students, were divided into groups and were required to individually read selected folktales thoroughly, and analyzed them. Later, we converted those folktales into other forms such as reviews, poetry, comic strips, or even plot summaries. As a student, I would say that the experience was immensely informative because the lessons that one could learn from each folktale are endless. For instance, I would see a folktale solely from the perspective of, say, a feminist, while others might look at it from numerous other angles like economics, discrimination, racism, the levels of friendship and affection shared between the characters, and the list never really seems to end. So, I read a folk tale wherein a wife was greatly dominated by her husband and her in laws, and the Indian tradition of marriages usually used to revolve around the idea that a girl is nearly abandoned by her parents when she is married off. Even when she is not married, she is usually kept confined to the walls of her house and sometimes not even allowed to attend school. So, this folktale was in stark contrast to one of your folktales wherein the mother mouse really encourages her kid about the running competition. Although this might be a very vague angle to compare the two folktales, because the concept of marriage was not really understood in your folktale, I could still say that women were far better off in your land than they were in ours.
Good morning. My name is Riya Jindal and I'm from Goenka Public School. So today I'll be talking about the folklore culture of India and Israel. Indian folktales have been read out to children since many years. They bring out the day-to-day problems and nature of Indian society. They highlight the plight of women and other socially inferior castes in the society. So authors, through folklore, bring out the message that they are not inferior and should be treated as equals. Some other moral values are brought out using animals as main characters. For example, in the story The Crow and the Serpent, by showing his wisdom, the crow successfully manages to solve his problem and conveys the message that will can achieve anything. Legendary tales of Akbar and Birbal and Tenali Raman bring out the importance of presence of mind in today's world. Israeli folktales focus on their history of exile in other lands, their return to the land of ancestors, and the plague that struck Egypt but didn't destroy the Israelis. Other than that, they reflect upon the religion, which is the Jewish religion, and their faith in gods, along with their day-to-day values of honesty, love, and care. But it can be seen that some similarities are present in both the folklore of both the countries. For example, men dominated women in both the countries, and women had to fight for their rights. However, in ancient Israel, marriages between Israeli cousins was strongly preferred. However, in India, it did not happen. Other than that, their religions and faith are different. However, folktales of both the countries convey mostly the same messages, some of which are equality between gender, optimistic thinking, not acting impulsively, being amicable to fellow friends and family, and always indulging in learning wherever possible. Folklores promote love and peace among all.
Greetings. My name is Jay Nandwani and I'm a student of GD Goenka Public School Rohini and I study in class 11th. I would like to now express my views on the top on Indian as well as Jewish folktales. India is an ethnically and religiously diverse country. Given this diversity, it is difficult to generalize widely about the folklore of India as a unit. Although India is a Hindu majority country with more than three-fourths of the population identifying themselves as Hindus, there is no single unified and all pervading concept of identity present in it. and it is because of the flexible nature of Hinduism. However, folklore as currently understood goes beyond religious or supernatural beliefs and practices, and encompasses the entire body of social tradition whose chief vehicle of transmission is oral or outside institutional channels. India possesses a large number of social heroic ballads and epic poetry preserved in oral tradition, both in Sanskrit and the various vernacular languages of India. When it comes to Indian folk tales, the country of diverse religions, languages, and cultures has a complete range of tales and short stories. Indian folk tales has a wide range of stories and mythological legends which emerge from all walks of life. Indian epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavad Gita are full of stories inspired from the lives of great souls. Being full of moralistic values, Indian folklore makes perfect stories for children who are required to be instilled with the right values. Folk tales are steeped in tradition and history and yet continue to delight and challenge modern audiences. Utilizing this, the rich Jewish tradition of stories that incorporate religion, horror, and superstition. Jewish folklore is full of vivid stories that both entertain and teach. While some of the themes are familiar from other traditions, some of them are infused with the perennial Jewish struggle for survival and dignity, as well as a large helping of gentle humor. Such folktales are categorized by the presence of unusual personages, by the sudden transformation of men into beasts, and vice versa, or by other unnatural incidents. The folk tales and folklores have been an internal part of every culture since ages, whether it may be Indian culture or the Jewish culture. The folk tales teaches the same value of mutual respect to all the sections of the society. It teaches us that every being on this planet is equal and has every right to make his life decisions. Love, non-violence, and peace are major elements of both the folk tales. In short, whether it may be Indian culture, Islamic culture, or the Jewish culture, all these cultures lead us to the same path of unity, respect, peace, and love. Thank you.